Hello
Hello.
and welcome. Uh,
Good to be back.
yeah. First session of 2021. Hopefully, the been treating you better than last year did.
Yeah. No, so far this year's good. It was an interesting year in the meantime, but no, it's good. So
Uh,
do we? I didn't really think of anything for an agenda. Did you have anything to cover? I can see
yeah,
that you got the document open.
yeah. I'll put it in the chat so everyone else can see it.
I'm hearing a weird sort of echo from you. I don't know if it's my end or not echo, like it's
A
like a
repetition.
stutter
I'm hearing that too.
repetition.
Yeah.
Right,
Let me
a
just
repetition.
is that any better?
Keep talking. Say something else.
Yeah. Me now, okay.
No, it's still doing it.
Let me just check. What's it actually doing? Right. It's not sounding bad at this end.
So far, that sounds better.
Let's see how that goes. Yeah. So what I thought we should probably talk about today really is just what the outcome are for this year. What we think the key pieces of work are that we need to do, and then starting to think about how we're going to execute on that and what we're going to need to plan for.
Yeah, I think at the end of last year, it was the end of last year when we sort of took a recess. We were starting to think about how to sort of get the word out there. So I imagine that would be a big part of the aims here. Would be a more wider awareness. People are discovering this. They're discovering the roadmap and things, and are very interested in it. But yeah, there could be more of that. So I guess that would be probably the biggest thing is the publicity around things.
Yeah, and I think there's two elements of that we will consider really. Um, One piece is the sort of general communication, which is just letting people be aware that the roadmap exists and that encouraging people to understand it and contribute to it. And obviously that probably needs a lot of outreach to get to a broad audience.
Yeah.
And the other element is actually at a CDF and Linux Foundation level, make sure that we're communicating clearly with all of the teams who are working DevOps related solutions, making sure that they're fully engaged and considering the roadmap part of the work that they're doing on their own projects.
So this is across Linux Foundation, all of Linux Foundation, or the CDF Foundation? Sorry, you're echoing or repeating a bit again, so I missed that bit.
Yeah, so it's the need to do that across as many projects as possible, both within the CDF and the broader Linux Foundation, because we've got a split projects at the moment in terms of most of the machine learning activities are going on in the Linux Foundation, and more of the DevOps specific stuff going on within the CDF. So we need to making sure that we're working sides of that coin towards the middle.
So would that like one possibility there is identifying what those projects are. Just taking a note. That springs to mind because of Argo. Like I've thought about Argo a bit lately. It's got a little bit of traction in more switched on developer-y data science teams. Argo's found a bit of a niche, and that's a CNCF project. So that would be one that it would be relevant to. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's the what's the sub foundation to do with AI in Linux Foundation? Is it just called the?
It's another SIG, I think, isn't it, or an LSIG?
There's the LFAI Foundation. Open source innovation in artificial intelligence, machine learning. Projects and SIGs. Yeah, LF. Why can't I paste that? Just lfaidata.foundation. I'll paste it in the chat here. Is the sub foundation. I haven't actually looked at what projects they've got in there where I've used any of them.
So we've got things like
Onyx is part of that one, for example.
Yeah.
No, otherwise they're not ones I'm that familiar with, but yeah, there's a bunch of things within the Linux Foundation that are interesting. Sorry, go on, Terry.
Yeah, I think there's a fair work that we still need to do within the CDF projects as well.
So what's the relevance to CDF projects? Can you?
Well, the CDF projects tend to be the things like Tecton, which are implementing the core elements for DevOps tooling. And in fact, we've now got a new SIG, which is specifically looking at sort of platform artifacts and abstractions, the events, which is intended to try and align all of the various tooling against a standard set of ways of thinking about managing DevOps activities in progress. So clearly we need to give some guidance in those areas around what the specialist needs are for MLOps within the broad DevOps workflow.
So it's basically, if like, for example, for Tecton, are we making sure it's possibly suitable for MLOps workloads? Like it's that it like an example would be that it's capable of running very long running things, handling things that deal with large amounts of data and so on, whatever the specifics are. Is that the idea? Is that it
yeah, so
if it's
Tecton is a special case because obviously we're using Tecton within Jenkins X and have been doing MLOps capabilities on top of that through Jenkins X. So there are things that we can suggest in those areas to help improve our abilities to manage larger data sets and where we've run up against some of the boundaries of what Tecton do, because working with chunks of data and or very resource heavy means that they're trying to work with. So I think there's certainly things that we could get onto that roadmap would be beneficial.
Influencing the roadmap. Yeah. What about any changes to the roadmap itself? Any things that have happened sort of in the last few months that might be interesting? If anything, I just think some of the points in there are even more relevant than when we wrote them down.
So I think that's obviously our third activity will be the refresh for 2021. And I think that's something that we can do incrementally over the course of the year. I'm not expecting large amounts of change this year. I don't think they're huge leaps forward to date, but hopefully the activity that we do in terms of promoting the roadmap will encourage teams to start working on some of the challenges that we identified last year, and we can update on the progress of those. There are some refinements that we make in terms of better communicating the scale of some of the issues and making sure that it's clear what the cost involved are and why you would need improved tooling in some areas. There's more data coming out with respect to actual costs of running some of the larger projects.
Like GPT-3 was in the news a lot about how many millions of dollars it costs to train. I guess that's an exceptional case and sort of a singular thing because it's trained once, but I don't know what the cost of inference is with it. I can't imagine it's terribly high compared to that, but yeah, it's certainly real dollars and real world impact.
So I think starting to provide a better view around those sorts of metrics would be helpful, and we may be able to reach out to some other people and get some suitably sanitized sort of guideline metric to help people to understand what's at stake here and what the bets are.
Yeah. Just taking a note. Yeah, so that's possibly a new thing is as things get used more is the impact of things. It's no longer theoretical, but it's more these things are expensive to train or can be.
Well, I think really what we're doing with the map is we're painting a picture of opportunity. So we've identified a number of real world challenges, and if we can back that up with sizing information in terms of what the pain point that is really costing it now, that starts to paint a picture of what the opportunity in that space for actually building the solutions. And clearly people want to be working on projects that other people are going to find useful, and ideally we do so in a way that will generate some revenue to support those teams working on those projects. So if we document this correctly, the process of solving the problem should be to an extent self-starting.
One other thing I thought would be interesting is if we're going to encourage more people to be involved and more discussion, where's the best place for doing it in text form or asynchronously? Is it the Slack channel? Someone was asking whether we should use GitHub discussions. Like, do you have any thoughts there?
So I'm keen that we get the traffic up a bit in the Slack channel, and start to encourage sort of more regular ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that our role is to act as educators for MLOps itself.
Act as a what? Sorry.
I don't think it's our to teach people how to do MLOps.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to stay fairly focused on making sure that the capabilities for doing it are there in the first place. There are lots of good resources out there already. Certainly things like mlops.org is a very good overview of what processes are and to incorporate them. I think we certainly need to make sure that our first priority is let everyone know that we are starting to work again, and get people excited, motivated to contribute.
Mm-hmm. So people have been it looks like at least a few people are discovering it via the repo. So maybe we should have something, or maybe there already has it there. Doesn't? Oh yeah, it does have the Slack community link.
Yeah, I updated the links earlier in the month, so that's
Yeah.
all up to date. I've now got admin permissions on all resources, so I can directly change anything that we need to, and I should be able to put these meetings in the CDF Google Calendar.
Yeah, and we're doing it monthly at this time. Is that right? For the next month or two. Yeah, and so I've got it as I put it in my calendar, so it's the for now it was the 4th Thursday in the month or something. Yeah, monthly on the 4th Thursday is what Google Calendar tells me it's on, which is okay with me.
Yeah, well, it should be every 4 weeks, so it won't all be 4th.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't see that as an option. I mean, if you've got a proper calendar link, that's better. But,
yeah, I'll get that set up this week, and then I'll also clone a 2021 draft roadmap, so
Yeah.
that we can just start doing requests against.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be good. So in terms of general awareness and outreach, did you have any thoughts on blogs or sites to approach to mention it and how?
So I think the most powerful tool will be trying to get as many conference slots as we can across a range of different conferences. So probably one of the first tasks that we need to do is actually put together a list of upcoming conferences that we can potentially apply to.
Mm-hmm. I'll have a look at that.
I've put in a couple of proposals for CDCon.
I think there's probably some broader DevOpsy ones that might be interesting too, that would draw attention to it. I think it would be relatively easy sort of pitch to talk about, because you could just take a subsection of it and find the most relevant things to talk about, because a lot of it's quite interesting to people, things people don't think about, and the either the ethical angle or the something that's in the news. So yeah, I'll definitely come up with think of some and come up with a list of things, and maybe even submit a few things. That doesn't sound like it would be a huge amount of work. It's easy to talk about.
We also need to look at the machine learning groups and start to connect more broadly with that side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As you say, if we start doing regular blog work, interviews and things like that, I did a slot a month or so back, the CDF sort of video broadcast, and continue to promote through the various channels.
In other areas, is since we talked last, has there been any interesting developments sort of in the field? Like to me, there's lots of interesting applications of it. There's different companies have started and things like that, but I haven't seen any sort of earth-shattering developments. It's just progress continues. I have come across some people that share sort of my opinion that that some of us think it'll be easier for developers to learn a bit of data science than data scientists to learn development. So it's interesting to hear some other people have that view, sort of analogous to the DevOps thing. There's always a shortage of data scientists in the world, and not that there's a surplus of developers, but developers are usually going to be around anywhere you would want a data scientist. So yeah, I think we might hear more about that and tools sort of specializing in one or the other. So that'll be interesting to see. That's definitely something I noticed.
I think that one's there are arguments on both sides of that one at the moment, because I'm also seeing a lot of people pushing for zero code machine learning.
Zero what? Sorry?
Zero code. So,
oh, right, yeah.
By magic.
Is that related to AutoML, or is it another name for
that? Well, I think it's more that people are looking at some of the sort of serverless movement and the some of the activities in the cloud space, which are intended really dumbed down, very standardized operations, so that it's all configuration and no coding.
Right.
And then they're trying to create products in the machine learning space work in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But again, what we're going to see is this big gap between a very specialized tool that do one machine learning thing very, very easy, and then a huge gap between being able to do that and being able to actually build a end-to-end product that includes that capability in a production environment.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like things are improving very much in terms of the quality of production machining asset. That if anything, we're increasingly looking like we're heading into another winter due to the number of failed L products out there.
Yeah.
So I think the roadmap's actually going to be very important over the next couple of years to try and focus activity on doing production ready machine learning rather than just make models on your laptop.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think we'll see more and more of the application of things to mundane sort of solutions, things that it's not, machine learning isn't really the key feature of it though, but it just adds another improvement to things. A bit like, I guess, when apps started getting web app front ends to things that weren't web app front ends before. They weren't all about the web app, but it was just one piece of technology in the mix. It might be like that with machine learning for some time, where it's just enhancing things. My experience is that it's certainly getting easier to train things. There's more power on tap. The sort of models that I deal with are much smaller than the ones that sounds like you and others deal with at the higher end, especially with imaging. But for the more structured data, sort of enterprise or business sort of data, then I think it's definitely getting easier to apply. So it'll be another tool in the tool belt.
I think the other thing that we need to keep a good eye on this year is legislation.
Yes.
See what actually goes through in terms of bills that pass into law.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There was some of that floating around last year. There's been lots more in the shorter term about where things around facial recognition can and can't be used, or where they're being abused. There's all sort of obvious ones like that. There was, I think, one of the things we laughed at last year before we sort of took recess was the laws we were proposing in Australia around regulating the linking to news from Google's and Facebook's and so on. That got amended and passed here in some useless form, but it at some point the legislation mentioned about algorithms and how the news companies were supposed to be notified of algorithm changes, which I thought was novel because a lot of those algorithms are actual machine learned, sort of continuously trained models based on, daily or continuous training runs or weekly. So like when you have some legislation that says something like an algorithm, does that extend to a model? And does that then include all the data that the private data that derives the model and so on. There's a lot of things that even expert practitioners don't get the subtleties of that. Like if you've got a piece of law that says Google has to tell News Limited when they're sorting algorithm for daily news changes, it's like, well, we don't know, but that's likely involving a non-trivial about it, machine learning and data that feeds that model. It's not an algorithm that someone cooked up. And
so my understanding of the numbers in that space are that the law states that 30 days notice must be given, but in practice at Google, those algorithms are self-defying around 100 times a day at the moment. So there's a very big misunderstanding.
Right. Yeah. So that's
that works.
Yeah. It's not just saying no or you can't. It's like you need to now understand that the term algorithm is so vague as to be useless now, and it never probably was that well defined. But when it's models that are trained from a significant amount of data, then the data becomes part of the algorithm. It's not just static code that you can do and not give away any external secrets or anything like that, or it's just, yeah, it's hard to explain. It's this sort of lay understanding of computing that's it gets ugly when it gets mixed in with regulation. And it's not just lawyers and legislators. It's I'd say 90 to 95% of developers wouldn't know that Google's search algorithm or something like that is fundamentally machine learning, or involves machine learning, and a bunch of things they use every day. They would not think that it involves it. So yeah, it's if it's challenging for insiders, then how can we expect the mainstream to be able to understand that subtle concept? I saw in the chat, Carsten posted a suggestion about someone who's in the chat room who could in the CDF Slack that could promote. So I've taken a note of that too. So she's one of the persons who created the MLOps org. Yep. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've just seen that. Yeah. So Larissa is joining us this year. I was hoping she was going to be able to attend today, but clearly she's had another commitment. But yeah, we've had about some of the things that need to be done, and she was keen to get involved.
Yeah, and it'd be good to encourage people in general to pop up in the Slack, and we're all in different time zones, so it's always nice to see some asynchronous discussion there. And even if people just post interesting things that are going on in their world, then that's useful. I think we get more value out of it that way. So I think that should be something we try and promote this year, is the Slack. I agree, that's a great way to chat. It's fairly low friction. You can sort of read it if you want, like a forum, but it's seems less work to keep up to date. So yeah, hopefully can get some more action happening there, and that'll be good. I might have to sign off now, so maybe we'll call it a day for the first session.
Okay.
And
well, we can.
I'll start looking at conferences to propose to, and as I find things, I'll just throw them in the Slack room, and I might even suggest certain talks and things. So
yeah, I think that's the best way to focus our activity at the moment, is to just generally keep scribbling along in Slack,
yeah.
and then use these month meetings to just kind of summarize and work out next steps.
Yeah. All right. Well, good catching up again, and good to talk, and see you next time, and on the Slack.
Have a nice day.
Okay.
Bye-bye.